of the world, now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah.
Hi, it's Ann Perry, and today's topic of discussion is going to be, how do I know if I have a karmic debt? A lot of people ask me this question. How do I know? How do I know if I'm working through karmic debts? Well, there are 4 different karmic debts that can show up in your numerology chart. And what I'm going to do today is identify 4 of them, help you to understand if you have them, and give you some really good tips and tricks on how to work the best with them so that you can rise above them this time around and not have to repeat them next time around. So are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so introducing karmic debts. In numerology, we actually observe 2 different types of karmic debts, or karmic numbers, I should say. There are karmic lessons that appear in your birth name, and they come as a result of missing letters. But today's discussion is not going to be about karmic lessons, it's going to be about karmic debts. There's quite a distinction between the 2, so we don't want to confuse that. The karmic debt numbers include the numbers 13, 14, 16, and 19. And karmic debts typically, I like to say they hold more of a punch, if you will, than karmic lessons do. Karmic lessons, they kind of run in the background. They're like computer programs, and you do feel them. There's no question you feel them, but they're not as evident in your life as what the karmic debts are. And so many of you have expressed an interest in learning more about your karmic debts. I thought maybe today would be a good day to discuss that. So karmic debt can also be referred to as a testing number or a warning number or a hidden number. It's something that is put in place because you abused the energy of the karmic debt in a previous lifetime. This will make more sense to you as we go along. I'm going to break each one down individually for you. But it does indicate that you have a debt to pay in this lifetime for actions that you performed in a previous lifetime. So when we see any of these numbers, the 13, 14, 16, or 19, show up in your core numbers within your chart, it tells me that you're an old soul. It tells me that you're working on issues from the past, okay? And so it's something that you've agreed to bring forward and to work on while you're here this time. So where can a karmic debt be found in your numerology chart? Well, your life path number, of course, is based on your date of birth, so it can definitely be shown there. And it is, it's always going to be more in your face, if you will, if your karmic debt shows up as your life path number. Now, you might remember from my previous videos that we talk about, the life path number, and then we talk about your expression number, your heart's desire number, and your birthday number. That's what I'm referring to as the 4 core numbers, okay? Now, each number as we go down, coming from your life path number to, for example, your expression number, if your karmic debt arrives in your expression number, it's going to have lesser impact than if it was in your life path number. And likewise, lesser again would be your heart's desire, and less again would be your day of birth. But it's all very relevant, and regardless of where it sits on your chart, it's going to have some effect on you. Now, for those of you who haven't watched the video, How to Calculate Your Life Path Number Correctly, I would really encourage you to go and take a look at that. I've given you the link there, just to make sure that you've added up your numbers correctly. And the reason I say that is because my date of birth, if I added up incorrectly, I would come up as a life path number of 34/7, meaning that if I added all the numbers straight across on my date of birth of March 25th, 1959, if we added those right across, it would come up to 34. If we add it up correctly, it comes up as 16. So why is that important? Well, if we had added up incorrectly, we're not being made aware of our karmic debt. And I have the karmic debt of the 16/7. I can't even identify with what it would be to be a 34/7 life path number, because I'm not. I'm a 16/7, and I totally understand the karmic debt that I'm paying back in this lifetime. So I just want to point that out, that it's really important that you do figure out how to do your life path number correctly. So you might want to put me on pause, hop on over, watch that video, and come back, and we'll go a little bit further for you. Okay, an example of a karmic debt. So let's use March 23rd, 1985. Now here's an example of how a karmic debt number might show up in your chart. So in this particular case, the date of birth is March 23rd of 1985. So we're going to break it down this way. Remember, we're going to break down March independently, so that comes down as a 3. The 23rd comes down here, and 1985 will come down here. We've broken all 3 pieces out of the date of birth. Now, We're going to add the month, the day, and the year together separately. So March equals 3. The 23rd day, we're going to break that down as 2 plus 3 equals 5. 1985, we're going to add that together. 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 5 equals 23. And we keep adding that until we come to one digit number. So 2 and 3 are 5. So now, you add the single digits together that you got from the month, the day, and the year like this. 3 for March, 5 for the 23rd, and 5 for the year equals 13. 13 is a karmic number. Now you keep adding that. 1 plus 3 equals 4. So a person's life path number would be a 4, but we refer to it as a 13-4 because that's a karmic number. Okay, so if someone was going to say to me, you know, and my life path number is a 4, I'm like, well, what kind of a 4 are you? Are you a 22-4? That's a master number. Are you a 31-4? You know, are you a 13-4? Because 13-4 has a karmic debt. It's a whole different number 4 life path number. So it's important that we refer to anybody whose life path number adds to 13 as a 13-4. Okay, karmic debt's outlined. Karmic debt, 13-4. So those of you with the 13 karmic debt might experience a lot of frustration in your life and will have to work really hard to accomplish any task. Now, the reason for that is because when we break this down and we look at the 1 and the 3/4, the 4 is all about being focused. It's about being stable and understanding that it takes hard work and discipline to get anything done. It's all about being very practical and very grounded. However, the lessons that the 13-4 is here to learn are around the 3 energy and the 1 energy. So the 3 says, I like to be kind of social, and I like to have fun, and I don't like to be too focused, and I like to, you know, try different things and that sort of thing. So the ultimate goal is to be focused, but the lessons that we're coming to learn about becoming focused is right in here. So the 3 says, I'm not very focused, so I've got to work on becoming focused. The 1 here is all about your confidence, your level of confidence with your creative potential. Okay, so the person with a 13-4 karmic debt has to work really hard to stay focused on any given task. And you might want to think of it as a consequence of being a little bit lazy, possibly in a previous lifetime, maybe taking advantage of other people, and work-related is basically what it is. It's work-related and it's family-related, but it is related to not working particularly hard, being kind of a slack ass, if you will, in a previous lifetime. So this time around, you might be put in situations where you have to work really, really hard to get the job done. So quite often the person with a 13-4 karmic debt, they seem to have the same obstacles recurring over and over and over again. And so they have to keep learning through their mistakes, and they have to keep sort of repeating things over and over again. So the key to working through that is to work with your focus, work with the details. A temptation of the 13-4 is to take shortcuts, okay? Because again, in a previous lifetime, you were kind of like, oh, I'll just sit over here and have a nap while the rest of the people pick apples and fill their baskets and do that kind of thing, and they'll never notice me over here having a nap collecting my paycheck, right? So that didn't end very well for you because now you're paying for it in this particular lifetime. So whatever debt it was that you incurred, it is as a result of your work ethic in a previous lifetime. So let's take a look at what we can do if we have this karmic debt of 13-4. So the best thing to do is to apply yourself 100% in your work. Step up and take on more share of the work, of the workload in this lifetime, because you know you've really kind of let people down in a previous lifetime. You didn't show a really good work ethic, so this time you might be called to sort of rise above it. It's possible that maybe you have a parent that demands an awful lot from you in terms of maybe punctuality and just overall work ethic and being accountable and responsible and detail-oriented. Maybe they're, you know, causing you to be really stressed about doing the right thing all the time and getting really good grades and just feeling under the gun all the time. So you're sort of walking around on eggshells trying to keep them pleased. And it's possible that that parent, or maybe it's an employer or somebody else, it's possible that they are here, they're your biggest teacher, and they are here to guide you through this process and help you to embrace the lessons relating to the 13-4. So you really need to pay attention to details this lifetime around and resist that temptation to take the shortcuts. because that will trip you up every single time. You know, if you are the kind of person that wants to read an instruction manual because you're putting together, I don't know, a barbecue, we've all done that before. That never ends well, does it? Anyway, flashback from my past. But when you're looking at going through an instruction manual, you might be inclined to sort of read step 1, going, oh yeah, step 2, yeah, I got that, yeah. So let's skip up to step number 6, right? And all of a sudden you realize, I've still got a handful of screws at the end of this. So make sure that you're really taking a step-by-step process for everything you do. And that's it. Ask yourself these questions. Am I following a step-by-step process in pursuit of my goals? Or am I taking shortcuts? And that's why I'm not achieving my goals. Do I let self-doubt and insecurity stop me from pursuing my goals? 13.4 Karmic Debt says that you are your own worst critic and you lack confidence in certain areas of your life. And so you might feel a little bit insecure, second guess yourself quite a bit. So it's allowing yourself to trust in the process. You will always feel more comfortable if you allow yourself to have a process. And then the other thing you need to ask yourself is, what have I done to explore my creative potential? Because, you know, the 4 is an extremely creative number, but the 13.4 says, I don't really believe that, right? I'm not really secure with me as a creative person. So that's all part of working your way through the 13.4 Karmic Debt. So let's take a look at Karmic Debt number 14.5. The 14 Karmic Debt arises from previous lifetimes during which human freedom has been abused. It says that you were likely a prisoner or a slave in a previous lifetime. You guard your freedom big time in this lifetime. It might be difficult for you to get married. It might be difficult for you to maintain relationships because your freedom is so important to you. You might suffer from claustrophobia, or being in small spaces, or just being in airplanes or elevators, things like that, or in crowds. You have a really hard time. If you feel like you're going to be trapped in any way, it's almost like it brings on panic. Okay, so this comes from the fact that you likely were a prisoner or a slave in a previous lifetime. You're now focused on having to adapt to change. That's the key to getting through the 14.5 Karmic Debt, is all about being adaptable and a little bit more flexible. You've got to become the willow tree rather than the oak tree. That 14.5, let's break that lesson down for you here. When we look up here, the 4 says I've got to be strong, and I've got to be, practical and inflexible and that sort of thing. Well, it's not working very well for you, because the 5 over here says I've got to be more adaptable and I've got to be more flexible. So it's kind of learning the balance between the two. And again, that's that number 1 there is all about, gaining confidence in your creative potential. You've got the potential of becoming a slave to your own freedom through the abuse of drugs or alcohol or overindulgences in possibly food or sex. You have a very addictive personality, and you've got to be really aware of that, because you can get addicted to pretty much anything. And that can be snowboarding, that can be scratch and win tickets, it could be scrapbooking. It doesn't have to be food, drugs, or alcohol, but you do have an addictive tendency. It can even be to a thought process. I can't let go of this thought in my head, or that this is the way I think things should go. I just can't let go of that. So sometimes you have a bit of a challenging time with that. But the key to working with the 14 Karmic Debt is all about commitment, stick-to-itiveness. Is there such a word? Life is going to resemble a bit of a roller coaster ride at times, but it's always going to travel in the right direction if you stay focused on your goals. You guys need a plan. You need a plan in place. You need to work with daytimers for sure. So let's take a look at how we can embrace this. So learning from your past experiences will lessen the chances of repeating them. I'm sure that you have probably gone, boom, many times in your life, because here you go again. You're making the same mistake again. Curb your appetite by lessening your exposure to things that you might become addicted to. So if you already know you have trouble with food, if you already know that that's your addiction, maybe it's chocolate cake, maybe it's salty things, maybe it's sweet things, whatever it is, curb your appetite by lessening your exposure to it. Okay. Stay focused on your goals, make sure you see them through. Sometimes 5s are a little guilty of creating goals that are just way too out there. They're just way too lofty, and we have to kind of break them down into little baby steps, little small components. So if you can do that, and then you'll experience a lot more success. If you're able to kind of embrace embrace the small goals and achieve them as you go. You won't set yourself up for defeat otherwise. Exercise daily. That's going to relieve any underlying anxieties that you might have that could lead to substance abuse. And sometimes some people will take anti-anxiety medications, whereas the need for the anti-anxiety medications might be lessened if you did a lot of cardio. Okay, so it's really good to get outside and get some exercise. Develop ways to stay on task. Use your day timer, use to-do lists. I love to-do lists. I have to have one. Check it off every day. I just feel like I'm really accomplishing something if I can get to the end of all those check marks. Find ways to channel your creative potential through a step-by-step disciplined approach. Remember that 4 is all about stability and process. The 14-5, the 4 is the lesson, right? The 5 is the life path, or in your could be expression or heart's desire or birthday. But at any rate, the lessons leading up to this 5, when you have a karmic debt of 5, is all about stability and process and learning that you can't have your freedom unless you do take steps with which to allow yourself the freedom. So for example, you've got to be more responsible with your money to save your money so that you can go on that adventurous trip that you want to go to, which is so much about being a 5. Find something that you can commit to and follow it through. Okay, commitment is so important. It's scary. I know commitment is scary for anybody with a 14-5 karmic debt. 5s all by themselves, if you have a life path number of 5, have a hard time with commitment. But somebody who's a 14-5, well, it's like trying to trap a wild horse and get them to go into this little round pen that you want them to go into. It's very, very difficult when their freedom is at stake. So I want you to ask yourself, if you have the karmic debt of 14-5, ask yourself, does anyone outside of myself really hold me back? Am I blaming people for my lack of success, that I'm not meeting my goals? Or is there something I could be doing about that to change my course of action, change my level of success? And where do I need to apply more discipline and focus in my life? Is it with regards to your finances? Is it with regards maybe to your diet? Is it regards to your spending habits and maybe your indulgences in terms of liquor? Maybe there's certain foods that you're really addicted to, that sort of thing. And what do I need to do to create more freedom in my life? And am I willing to do what it takes to achieve this? All right. Moving along, let's take a look at the 16-7 karmic debt. So when the 16 is one of the core numbers, this process is all about the destruction and the rebirth. And it's a continuous cycle that actually serves to bring you into higher consciousness. I have the karmic debt of 16-7. My life path number is a 16-7. And I have over the years kind of hit that button and blew up my world, right? It happens, right? That is what 16-7s do. But it's always in an effort to advance yourself in a very spiritual way. And it brings you into a higher consciousness. It helps you to connect better on a much higher level. It's a path of progress and great spiritual growth. The 7 is a spiritual teacher. And I find that people who have the 16-7 as a karmic debt are intended to experience life, go through the ups and the downs, blow up their worlds occasionally, and then come back and teach the lessons to somebody else so that they can benefit. And I know that I do, as you probably know by now if you've watched a few of my videos, I do teach off my sleeve, if you will. I do share a lot of my own personal experiences, and it's not to make it about me. It's about, I've learned a lesson through that, and I think if it's of use to you or benefit to you, then I'm going to share it with you. So I'm pretty much an open book. But, you know, the whole process of being a 16-7 can really be a very painful process because it usually comes after much ego inflation. Okay, and life will present a lot of challenges to you, and quite often what will happen is that you'll build your world up to a certain level, and everybody around you is going, wow, you know, look at you, you've got it made, you know, you've got the perfect home, and you got the perfect husband, you got the perfect job, and it's all good. And, you know, the whole Ozzie and Harriet thing on the outside. But on the inside, the 7 is somebody who's thinking all the time. It's very, very analytical thinker all the time. And people on the outside don't know that about us. They don't see that about us. But we have things figured out, and we tend to overthink things and turn every stone over and such. And so what happens is when we blow up our worlds, the rest of the world is looking at us going, what? What? She did what? Right? She left her job, she left her home, she left her marriage, whatever. It's everybody else is in shock. But those of us who do this and who blow our worlds up, look at it and go, yeah, but I had to do that because it's what it takes to advance me spiritually. And when I advance spiritually, I'm gaining a lesson plan whereby I can assist others. So I hope that helps to understand that. So quite often what will happen is you'll have a really good career and you just break it up, right? You just decide you can't do that anymore. And maybe you've been a doctor all along. All of a sudden you decide, no, I want to be a tour guide, right? And so you leave everybody going, what? You know, she studied all this law and all of a sudden she wants to be a tour guide? What's up with that? It's always going to be about the rise and the fall. And so those with the 16-7 karmic debt, they tend to kind of rise, and they get to a certain point, and then they kind of knock their tower down. And in relation to the tarot cards, the 16 is the tarot card, right? So you might know that the tarot shows the tower, and the tower has come off its foundation and it's leaning like this, and there's all these, the tower's in flames, and there's all these people jumping to their death. Okay, it's kind of an ominous, kind of a scary looking card. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like ashes to ashes. It's sort of like the rise of the phoenix out of the ashes, so to speak, because we do burn. Actually, I was teaching numerology one year, and one of my students said to me, "You know what, Anne? I think we're going to get ourselves some T-shirts, and on our T-shirts it's going to say crash, burn, and learn." Right? So yeah, that's it for 16-7s. It's about crash, burn, and learn. But that's okay. We improve ourselves every time we do it. The other thing to understand about the karmic debt of the 16-7 is that 16-7s have had affairs of the heart in previous lifetimes. Okay, so we were promiscuous and we likely stepped outside of our marriages or our relationships in a previous lifetime. So what happens in this lifetime, you might possibly do it again, and if you do, then of course you're not learning much from your karmic debts, but you also might put yourself in situations whereby other people don't trust you, okay? And you've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing to deserve this mistrust. But you're put in a situation where you feel like you have to be on guard all the time because people just don't trust you. And I'm not talking about people overall, but you might attract the odd person, be it a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, who just doesn't trust you. And so that's karma. That's karma playing out. And I bet you if you looked into their chart, you'd see that they probably have a 16-7 as well. So you're working stuff out. So it is all about trust, and it is in relation to relationships of a previous lifetime. Okay, so last but not least, let's take a look and see what do we have to learn from the 16-7. Well, learn how to trust in the process of the universe. That is huge. It's really, really big. And I know I've battled with that one quite a bit. Having more faith in yourself. Trusting that the universe is going to roll out exactly as it needs to. You don't have much choice. You're here for however long you're here for. So you've got to sort of trust that the universe knows what to do and where to place you. Stop guessing yourself and tune into your intuition. Again, trust. And develop spiritual practices like meditation and yoga. And it can also be, if going to church is your thing, then develop that kind of a practice to get into some kind of a routine. Or maybe it's setting up a mantle or an altar for yourself. Or just getting into the spiritual practice of saying your prayers in the morning or writing in a gratitude journal. Resist the need to isolate yourself more than is healthy. Those with a 16-7 karmic debt tend to isolate themselves, and they really like time by themselves. But you've got to establish balance. And remember the lesson in the 16-7, when we look at the 6 over here, that's all about balance, okay? Learning to establish balance in our life. And the 6 is also about learning what we're responsible for. So not fretting about everything relating to our family and feeling that we have to be overly responsible to our family all the time and second guessing, how good have I been? Was I a good enough daughter? Was I a good enough son? Was I a good enough wife and mother and things like that? So because it all relates back to the 6 energy of the domestic side of life. And so you might want to ask yourself, how have the tough lessons in my life been perfect for me? I can think of many occasions. I know when my ex-husband and I separated, I knew that had to happen. I knew I had to get into alignment in an environment that would be really super supportive for the type of work I need to do, which is this. So that was difficult, really difficult. However, absolutely necessary if I was going to live out my life purpose. Have I let my insecurities or need for perfectionism stop me in any way? Oh my. I can relate to this one too. Believe it or not, I do have a perfectionistic bit of a personality, I guess. And so I have to keep that in check all the time. And I fully expect that if you have a 16-7, you're probably very much like that too. And second guessing the details, especially when it relates to numbers. You know, checking a date of birth, if I'm doing a life path number, I've got to check it 2 or 3 times to be absolutely certain I have it right. Simple math, but still, it just leaves me confused at times. So, and where do I have trust issues in my life? Is it that I don't trust? Is it that I don't trust other people? Is it that I don't trust myself? Is it that I don't trust relationships? Where does that surface? Where does it show up? And what can I, how can I work through that a little bit better? Okay, let's take a look at the 19-1. So those with the 19-1 karmic debt have to learn independence and the proper use of power. Okay, the 19-1s in a previous lifetime, they really stomped on people's toes. They tread on people very heavily in an effort to get ahead. Okay, remember the number 1 is all about being the leader. It's all about being in control. It's about being the inventor, the initiator. It's a very strong number. But when we see it as a 19-1, we're reminded that this person stomped on people to make their way to the top in a previous lifetime. So this time around, you're forced to stand up for yourself, and you're often left standing all by yourself. Okay, you're having to learn the proper use of power, and power, when you're using it properly, has a lot to do with embracing other people to help you get to the top. It's taking the whole team with you rather than pounding your chest and saying, I did it, right? A lot of difficulties are going to be faced and overcome through personal struggle. The 1 is a very independent number, right? So both on the lesson side of the 19, the 1, that's all about learning independence, and as is this is too. But it causes you sometimes to be very alone. If you have a 19-1 life path number, you might wonder, why is it that I don't have really solid relationships in my life? Why do I always find myself alone? I know I'm a strong personality, but why can't I find somebody to spend time with? Part of that comes from the fact that you stubbornly resist help, okay? And you have an image that's very important to you that says, I'm going to be the leader here, and my image is really important to me, so I'm going to make sure that nobody knows that I'm caving on the inside because I don't have all the answers. But I'm going to make sure everybody thinks I have all the answers. So if you run around making sure everybody thinks that you have all the answers, then sometimes people are like, well, I guess she doesn't need me, right? So that's part of your lesson there. So a lot of times all this severe independence is actually self-imposed, and you simply just will not listen to other people, and you have a really hard time accepting advice, because it's almost like, oh my, the gig is up. They're going to discover they don't have all the answers, because you want to be that supreme leader that's always in control. And so the 19 karmic debt can really become a very self-imposed prison if you don't open up to the reality of interdependence, okay, being able to be cooperative with other people, and the mutual need for love. The 9 is a very, very loving number. And you need to be able to express love. You need to be able to receive love, and you need to be part of a team effort to make that all happen. Okay, so if you have the karmic debt of 19-1, you need to learn how to ask for help. You need to understand that when you go, hey, I could use a little bit of help here because I don't have all the answers, people are actually looking at you going, wow, that's awesome, right? There's a lot of strength there that she'd know or he'd know that they need a little bit of help there. Learn how to accept the help and the guidance from other people. You guys don't like to be managed. You certainly don't like to be micromanaged in any way. But sometimes it doesn't hurt you to step back and go, okay, I can accept a little bit of guidance and direction. Resist that temptation to be self-serving, especially as it relates to getting ahead. The 1 is always very, very driven, okay? And they do very, very well, regardless of where this shows up in your chart. The 19-1 says that you can be self-employed and would really enjoy being self-employed. But you need to find something that allows you to be of service to other people. And so it could be that you start some kind of a business that maybe assists people in third world countries. For example, the Body Shop comes to mind. I'm not sure if the Body Shop is around the world, but I know it's in Canada. The Body Shop has been really an interesting model for a lot of businesses, because the person who owns the Body Shop was going into various countries and saying, okay, I need the people out in the jungle here to create our massage rollers, you know, the wooden massage rollers, and I need the farmers out here to grow this particular nut to put in this kind of oil that we're creating. So something to do with employing people who, so that they can help themselves would be excellent for someone with a 19-1 karmic debt. So being the leader is perfectly fine, because that's what you do best, but being the leader who engages everyone in pursuit of success. So it's a community thing. It's a group thing. It's not all about you. And live by the credo that, hey, your success is my success. So as you're leading people, helping them to thrive and grow is so important to the balance that you really, really need, and so that you can feel a part of it too. Because it's lonely at the top when you're there all by yourself, right? So you might want to take some good people with you. Ask yourself, how do I use my creative energy? Oh my God, 19-1s are hugely creative. And what am I doing to honor my body? Okay, so that means, you know, am I nourishing my body? Am I exercising properly? Am I feeding my body good foods? Am I honoring it in simply buying good shoes that I'm comfortable in? Things like that. Am I able to surrender and let go easily? And if not, why? The 9 is all about letting go. That lesson to the left of the 1, it's the 9, learning how to let go. And have I found the courage to stand out and be different, right? Be that leader, be a little quirky, a little different. It's huge creative potential here, and people are expecting you to be different, and people are expecting you to dress differently and to express yourself differently, and that's totally okay, right? So allowing yourself to kind of let go of the need to be really concerned about your image and how you appear and how you look and whatnot, and just really get into that creative potential that you have. It's really important. So there you have it. We've discussed all 4 karmic debts, and I hope that somehow they've managed to resonate with you in some way if you're experiencing them. I do encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because there's going to be new videos every single week. I'm committed to helping to educate each and every one of you. And I have a Facebook page. You're welcome to follow me there. On my Facebook page, I post something related to numerology every single day as well. And then, of course, on my website, there's more information about life path numbers and 9-year cycles, and there's a blog there that you can sign up for if you want to. And I just love to stay in touch. So if there's anything that I can do, if there's any questions that I can answer, if there's a video you'd like for me to create or something that you'd like for me to pursue, I would love to hear from you. For now, it's Ann Perry, and I am just absolutely passionate about encouraging you to be passionate about numerology. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping you're having a super day. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.